Disclosure. All information is public record. This is our own opinion. We are not making fun of anyone or anything. This is all for entertainment. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, Relative Detectives. Today we're going to be listening to Renee speak and tell us a crazy batshit story I have no idea about. Take it away, woman.
We're going to be talking about a cult today, and it is a crazy one. So this video is going to consist of murder, assault, abuse, dismemberment, SA, and harm of children and adults.
Damn.
So if this is something you're not comfortable with, back out of this channel, go take care of yourself. It's pretty rough, so just warning you. So today we're going to be talking about the Anthill Kids. And its founding member was Rock Terrio. And we're going to be talking about, this is like one of the worst cults I have ever heard of. I mean, people talk about, Charles Manson or Jim Jones or whatever. And I mean, I'm not saying those aren't bad, but this guy is like sick. Like he is off his rocker. Like it's bad. So just warning you. He's one of the worst cult leaders that I've ever read about, ever researched. He led a cult that consisted of assault, murder, abuse, etc. I mean, it's pretty rough. The members that we know of were Giselle, Solange, Chantal, Francine, Claude, Nicole, Gabrielle, Yolanda, Jose, Jacques, and Maurice. And Jacques and Maurice were a married couple, and they brought a daughter with them. So I think maybe this cult hasn't been talked as much about just because there wasn't like that many members of the cult. Mm-hmm. Here we go again. You talk about Jim Jones. I mean, you've got hundreds of people. This was like 30 to 40 people in the end. So I don't know if, people just didn't talk about it as much because of that. So, but this took place in Canada.
Oh, Canada, eh?
So, so this is the story of the Anthill Kids. Rock Terrio was born on May 16th, 1947, to a French-Canadian Catholic family. In Canada, of course. He grew up in the town of Thetford Mines. He was the second oldest of 8 siblings. And we don't know a whole lot about his childhood. I wish we did, but we just don't. Everybody said that he was a very smart, he was charismatic, he learned quickly, just an all-around kind of good kid, But he has said that he was abused as a child, that his dad abused him. And we don't really know if this is true or not. I've seen and read different things that say, that he was abused. I have read things that say that he wasn't, that even some of the neighbors of his parents said that they never saw anything bad happening around or in the home, just so you really don't know. And personally, in my opinion, he lies through this whole thing with all these poor people. So I honestly, in my opinion, think that he probably wasn't abused, that he just made that all up for sympathy to, attract people and pull them to him, and use it as like a mechanism to be able to do what he wanted and use that as an excuse for sympathy for his horrible actions. I mean, that's my opinion. But his dad, we do know his dad made him join a thing for the church that they were in their Catholic church. It was called the White Berets, or also the Pilgrims of St. Michael's. It's an organization of Roman Catholics in Canada that promotes social credit economic theories. And Rock hated this because they had to wear like these little white beret hats, and his friends would make fun of him. And, he did not like feeling inferior to anyone. Like, he wanted to be center of attention, the greatest one. So being made fun of was a big no-no for him. So he hated this. And this kind of made him hate the Catholic religion as a whole. He dropped out of school in the 7th or 8th grade. I've read both. Some people say that he went to a school that didn't go past 7th grade. Some people say he dropped out in 8th grade. So I really don't know which. It, says both. His teachers were disappointed because he was so smart and he learned so quickly and he got good grades, and they were really disappointed that he dropped out of school and did not continue education. He had a passion for reading. He loved to read books. He read books because it was like the more knowledge he could get, the more things that he could like put on you. Like, he wanted to sound smarter than you, better than you, like that type of thing. But he started teaching himself the Bible. So he read the Bible a lot. And of course, he took things and made it his own, in his own way. So he taught himself the Old Testament. But Rock liked to party. So of course he's going out and drinking, running around, and it's said that he could get women. Like, for some reason, this man just attracted the ladies. Like, he'd go out to the bars and, be drinking and everything, and he'd be with somebody else all the time. Mm. Like, they just gravitated towards him. Yeah. They said he was very charismatic and, could shoot a line, and they were, reeling him in. Like, or he was reeling them in.
Shooting lines, I was thinking.
Oh, no, like pickup lines, not lines of Coke.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
pickup lines.
Yeah, shoot that line.
But yeah, he's out there fishing for the women, and he's reeling them in, like, Dang. Constantly. Well, one of his things was that he said that he attracted women because he had a very large penis, and that made him special. So, I mean, the ego is like top tier. But that was one of his things that he said that, was helping him attract women. But during all this partying, okay, in November of 1967, he married the woman of his dreams.
With his penis.
Yeah. She was 17-year-old Francine, and Rock was 22 at the time.
Oh, pedophilia.
So he was, what is that? What is that called?
Freak weirdo.
No. Like, when they date somebody that's younger than them, they're not supposed to.
A groomer? No, not a groomer.
No.
It's like oh shit.
I can't even remember. They've said that they had a good marriage. They lived in Montreal, and Rock worked as a chimney inspector. But of course, he still liked to drink. He kept drinking through this whole thing. So they had 2 sons together, Roque and Francois.
Oh,
Francois. And in 1971, Rock started complaining about his stomach hurting. He was having stomach pains. And he went to the hospital and was diagnosed with stomach ulcers. And he ended up having to have 2 different surgeries to correct these stomach ulcers. And the surgeries didn't go well. And of course, this is, the early 1970s. So, people have bariatric surgeries all the time now. So they know, they know, how to do this and what not to do and all. But he had 2 surgeries to correct this stomach ulcer problem, and they ended up having to take part of his stomach out. So it caused him to have chronic pain, and he was diagnosed with dumping syndrome.
Ooh, that's the worst. I get dumping syndrome since having the sleeve.
So dumping syndrome is when the food moves too fast through the stomach into the first part of the intestines, and it causes major diarrhea.
Yeah.
So he's going through this, and he's got chronic pain. And so at this point, his mental health is going down because he's dealing with all this pain and everything. And then he becomes obsessed with reading medical books because of his condition. So he thinks, I guess if I can read all this stuff and figure out what's wrong with me, maybe I can fix it. I don't know. It's never, they never really say. But of course, he has a passion for reading. So here he is with the books again. But he's reading medical textbooks to see, I guess, if he can do something for himself. But he becomes like just totally obsessed with the entire thing. And he acts like he's educated in medical procedures because he's read these textbooks. But his wife said after the surgeries, Francine, his wife, said after the surgeries that he was totally different. That before the surgeries, that he was a good dad, a good husband, like he was totally, normal. After the surgeries, he did not care about his family life. He did not care about his kids. He was obsessed with himself. It just, he just went into, of course, in the beginning, he's like, his ego's up here anyway. So I think that was probably happening before the surgeries, but something afterwards just made him click into that more, So he became obsessed also with sex. He talked about it all the time, wanted it all the time, the whole spiel.
It's so long.
Yeah. So it's been said that he even went to his in-laws because evidently his in-laws had like a bunch of land, and he went to his in-laws and asked them if he could start a nudist colony on part of their land. So this is how, obsessed he is with this. Of course they said no, and they thought he was crazy. They thought he was nuts.
So.
But Francine said before the surgeries that he would want her to wear like conservative things, long skirts, things that covered her up. He didn't want her to be provocative at all, And she was said after the surgeries, it totally flipped. He wanted her in short skirts, revealing tops. He wanted her to look like a hoe, basically. He just totally and completely changed. So at this point, Rock moves his family back to his hometown. And everyone said once he got home and he was around everybody in the town he'd been around before, they all said he had a screw loose. Like, so he was, different than he used to be. So of course, with these surgeries that he had and everything, he was taking medicine, and he thought his medicine was affecting his sex life. So he stopped taking the medicine. And what did he do? He started drinking even more because he's in pain all the time, So he becomes an alcoholic. Blah, blah, blah. An alcoholic.
Do like I did.
And his wife thought he was cheating on her. which Francine was right. He was cheating on her.
Oh, fucking cheater.
Cheater.
Pumpkin eater.
So in 1976, Rock met 24-year-old Giselle. And of course, he used his charm to reel her in and make her his girlfriend. At one point, it says he lied to her about having cancer. So, there's no telling what he told this poor girl to, get her to be his girlfriend and be with him. And we'll insert some pictures of him. I don't see the attraction.
It's not cute.
I just don't get it. We'll just say that. So the summer of 1976, Rock and Francine got divorced. So Francine's like, I'm done. You're cheating on me. You're crazy. I'm out. So she left, thank goodness. Well, Giselle quits her job and she gets an apartment and Rock moves in with her. So they're both living in this apartment together. And in 1977, Rock converted to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And he believed that doomsday was coming.
Oh, he's crazy.
So he ended up converting to this church. Their part of their religion is clean everything. No drinking, no smoking, only eating healthy foods. So of course he had to quit. He quit all that. He quit drinking. He quit smoking. He quit, eating bad, like he was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing in this church.
Damn. Okay.
So of course he gets obsessed with this religion too, because he obsesses over everything, all the textbooks he's reading and all the things that happen. So he, of course, believed that the end of the world was coming. And he started following everything they did in the church. He started selling pamphlets for the church. He was doing teachings for the church. He, of course, was baptized into the church. He did non-smoking meetings for the church. So he was like in it to win it.
Mm-hmm.
He began to take the Bible, of course, obsess over it, and twist it to his advantage.
Mm.
So then, while he was doing one of his teachings or preachings or whatever you want to call it, he met one of his first followers, Solange. Solange. I think that's Beyonce's sister's name, isn't it?
Yeah, she does have a sister. Yeah.
He began to gain more followers. And when he started his, when he was doing his preachings and all these younger people were coming to listen to him, they were like in their early 20s, most of them. He started doing preachings in their apartment. So basically what he's doing is pulling these people from the church to the apartment to get them away from the majority so he can influence them in a smaller setting of his own. So he started having the followers work for him for the church. So they were out selling the pamphlets and all the stuff, but then he would pocket the money. Mm-hmm. So he's already starting this, you do what I say type thing. He was doing his teachings. The church was not happy with some of the things that he was saying because he was going off the rails about, women should be servants to men, blah, 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 that type of stuff. So they eventually kicked him out of the church. So, and during this whole thing, some of the parents of these young adults did not like them being around Rock. So he realized at that point, because he was having some issues and some of the parents were trying to get their kids to, leave and come back home and all the stuff. So at this point, he realizes that he's got to get these people away from their families and away from everyone. So he manipulated all the followers to stay. And he rented a house an hour away from Thetford Mines in St. Marie. The group ended up opening a healthy living clinic where they were still at this point, the followers were following kind of the healthy thing, trying to. I don't think that he had got them totally away from the Seventh Day Adventist beliefs on that part of it. So they opened this clinic. And of course, he is saying that, he can heal people and, do all these crazy things. I mean, most cult leaders do. I mean, they're like, I've been called and, like a prophet of God, and he's told me I could do this and do that, and you have to do this and you have to do that, to get all these people to like believe what he says. And I think a lot of times when you have a cult, the followers have had some sort of something happen in their lives that, they've had bad childhoods, or they've been mistreated, or they feel down on themselves and they want to be included in something, or you know what I mean? They just, I don't think, have strong enough feelings about themselves, to get out of this situation. Yeah. So he started at this point too. After they opened this clinic, he made them start wearing robes. Oh, so they were all to wear like the same color robes.
Like Harry Potter.
You part of Gryffindor, Slytherin. No. So,
crazy.
Yeah. Your cult robe over here. So he started. That was funny. I forgot what shirt I had on. So they were all wearing the same color robes to portray unity. Mm-hmm. So nobody was different from anybody else. Everybody was the same,
Did they have the same haircuts and stuff?
No.
Okay.
They all look different. Like,
I didn't know.
Some of the men had beards, and like it was the 70s. So, except for Rock, he wore a different robe. And it's been said that his was tan or red compared to everybody's white, or, so of course he's making himself, ego appear again. So two, at this point, Giselle, of course, was talking some of the other women in the group. And of course they were alone. They didn't have significant others. And she said something about the women feeling lonely. And I think really what she was doing was just talking to Rock about what was going on. It wasn't something that she was like, telling him to do something about. She was just, how women are. We just want to talk about stuff. Just listen. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Just listen to us for a minute. That's all it is.
For real.
But he took it and twisted it. And so he said that because Giselle said all the women are lonely, he took this as, okay, then I need to, there's a fly in here.
Did you
It flew right in front of my face. I must have let it in when I let the dogs out. I have dogs, by the way, so if you're clicking or any noises like that, it's the dogs running around. And I'm sorry, but, it is what it is. When you have animals, that's what happens. So he married all the women. So he basically had his little, harem at this point. So all the women are like, well, he didn't, of course, legally marry them. He was
Like
marrying
sister-wives.
them in his mind.
Yeah.
So Giselle soon became pregnant with their first child. She was kind of jealous over the fact that Rock has all these women, of course. I mean, she was his, first girlfriend or whatever. So she threatened to leave. And when she did that, Rock punched her in the face. So there's the first part of the physical abuse that's to come. So he punched her in the face. And of course, why, I don't know, but she stayed.
Oh, no, honey.
Yeah.
Baby.
So then around this time, of course, they have this healthy living clinic. This lady named Geraldine came into the clinic and she had leukemia. And she had been going to doctors and everything, of course. Well, Rock told her that he could help her and cure her of her leukemia and that the doctors were killing her. He told her that he could cure her with grape juice and healthy living. And it is beyond me why these people think that he can do this stuff. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people take this seriously. I don't know.
Grape juice.
So
I'm gonna drink some more grape juice in my life. That's gonna heal me stuff.
So, of course, she passed away because everything that Rock was doing did not help her.
Why?
But what did Rock do? He twisted the situation to his advantage. So he told his followers that he had brought Geraldine back to life with one kiss.
Was it Snow White?
For real. Like, yeah.
What? Snow White. I'm already getting pissed off.
So he says that he brings her back to life with one kiss. Then she, of course, woke up, but God came to him and said that it was Geraldine's time to be with him. So Rock had to let her go because God told him to. And these people believed him. Again, I don't understand why.
Yeah, they're just sitting there going, that makes sense.
The authorities kind of started being suspicious of Rock because of the things that happened with his healthy living clinic and the whole thing with Geraldine and all that stuff. So here again, he's got to move everybody away because there can't be any influences of outside world. And there again, cult leaders talk about, the outside world being horrible. Like they want their followers to think that everybody else in the world is the worst of the worst, and that they are not going to get saved and they're not going to get, taken to heaven or any of that stuff. Like they want them to stay with them to be saved.
Yeah.
So, they left St. Marie's in the summer of 1978. And at this point, he made them leave their lives, their identities. He made them leave behind, like even their driver's licenses, any form of identity at all. He told them that doomsday was coming and that they needed to go into the wilderness to stay away from everybody else. So doomsday was supposed to happen in February of 1979.
Mm-hmm.
He said if they followed him, that they would all be safe, and God had chose him to be a prophet, and they were going to rebuild society after the world was destroyed by doomsday. So they found a spot 13 miles from St. Jog up in the mountains, and Rock named it Eternal Mountain. And I'm pretty sure that that's not the real name. I think he probably named it that. So at this point, they're all in the mountains, and he's making all his followers build their commune thing, like their little place to live.
With just the stuff around them, like cutting trees down.
I mean, they go into town some to get certain things, but not,
Yeah.
So he's basically making them build cabins, dig wells, and all this stuff while he sits on his ass and watches them all do this. And he says to himself that they looked like ants working in an ant farm.
Oh.
So hence the name, the Ant Hill Kids. So, and this was like the beginning of the abuse. I mean, yes, he punched Giselle in the stomach, but when he gets them away, this is the beginning of, he kept them sleep deprived. He worked them all the time. He kept them underfed. So, like, if you're sleep deprived and you're underfed and, all that messes with your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That messes with your thinking, your reasoning, your willpower. Like, you cannot make rational decisions when you are, sleep deprived and starving.
Yeah.
So that was one of his first tactics, was to take all that from them.
First.
Oh, yes. This gets even worse. I can't, y'all. Like, it gets worse. This is just the beginning. So he gave them all names from the Bible at this point. So I don't know the names that he gave them. I haven't seen it. But he called himself Moses.
Oh, golly.
So he gave up too, also, his healthy lifestyle. This was over. They were out in the woods. He can do whatever he wants again. So what's he start doing? He starts drinking again. He starts eating junk food. He's doing all the things. But does he let the followers do that? No. They are not allowed to do that, because they are allowed to do exactly what he says.
Mm-hmm.
So he would make the followers go into town and like buy his liquor and his junk food and stuff like that. And he would beat them if anybody questioned him or did not follow what he said to do. He would beat them. He was having kids with all these women. So of course, he's married all these women in his mind, and he's impregnating them all. They're having kids. Like, so the cult is growing, as the children are being born. The only one that is not sleeping with Rock is Maurice, because she came in with her husband, Jock. And the only reason that she came in was because Jock wanted to follow Rock. So she is the only person that is not sleeping with him. She is having her own children with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
His biological children were treated like royalty. He was always fine with them. The other children, they were pretty much treated like animals. He made them do everything that the other people were doing. at some point, Rock was sent to a psychiatrist, and this psychiatrist thought that he was schizophrenic. And honestly, to me, that kind of makes a little bit of sense because, I mean, I'm not a doctor by any means whatsoever, but like everything I've heard about schizophrenia, it seems to develop later on in life, that it's not something that you experience as a child. It comes on, later, like 30s and up. It's not something that happens in your younger years. So I don't know if, that's what's happened to him, or if he was just crazy from the get go, or if his surgeries caused this. You just don't know.
Yeah. Or the abuse of alcohol.
Yeah. And then, of course, the alcoholism. Well, they say that alcoholism is not something that makes you do things. It just uninhibits you. So when you drink a lot, you're going to do things that you would have already done. Not, it doesn't bring out things that you wouldn't have done. Yeah. It uninhibits you to do the things that are in your mind. So if that's true, then he's already got all this craziness in there somewhere, know. But the drinking, of course, brings it out even more. But the children, he would tie the kids to a tree if they did something wrong or whatever, and have the other kids throw rocks at them.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It gets worse.
Oh no, I don't want to hear it.
Maurice was pregnant, and she was really hungry, of course. So she eats 2 pancakes one morning. She didn't ask permission to eat those 2 pancakes. So he broke 2 of her ribs because she ate pancakes.
All for the flapjacks?
All for the flapjacks.
Oh, boy.
She was pregnant, of course. He breaks 2 of her ribs because she wanted 2 pancakes. And that's not the worst. Y'all, for real. It's bad. And here again, I'm going to say again, why are these people following him? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
They're not in the right mind either.
No. There's something. So she was going to leave.
Good.
Okay. And of course, you have to remember that Maurice is not the one sleeping with Rock. She's there with her husband, Jacques.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the one that's, she's pregnant with not Rock's child.
Oh.
So she's going to leave. She threatens to leave. Well, Rock goes to Jacques because Jacques the one that really wants to follow Rock. And he tells Jacques that he needs to make his wife stay and that he needs to cut off one of her toes, and that if he doesn't, that Rock will cut all 10 of them off. So Jacques does this. He goes and he cuts off one of his pregnant wife's toes. And she stays because she loves her husband. It's crazy. So Doomsday came and went, and of course nothing happened. He made up an excuse.
Oh, of course he did.
He said that heaven and earth were not on the same timeline, and he hadn't realized that. So, that's why Doomsday did not happen on the date that he had predicted, because they were on different timelines. It was like, something like 1 minute on earth could be, like, I don't know, 2 days in heaven or something. Like, it just wasn't on the timeline.
This is like a multi-universe.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Strange's going to open up a thing.
Exactly. So at this point, some of the followers kind of started questioning him a little bit.
Good.
But his favorite people to abuse at this point
Women
were Jacques and Maurice. Because, of course, they're married. Maurice isn't sleeping with Rock.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, they have a little boy in this cult. His name is Samuel. Rock abuses Samuel. Samuel's crying one night, and he gets sick of hearing him cry. So he takes him naked and rolls him in the snow. This is Canada now in the winter.
Yeah, it's cold.
So he takes him out and rolls him in the snow because he's crying. There was another follower after this, well, kind of during this whole timeline, that came into the cult because he saw an article on Rock, and evidently some of the townspeople described him as just a peaceful mountain man, which they had no idea what was going on because, of course, he's going into town acting like he's the greatest thing since peanut butter, just like...
Sure, that's saying.
So, like, he's, manipulating them.
Mm-hmm.
So this boy, his name is Guy, and he comes into the cult, and he has mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, he was on babysitting duty. And I guess he wasn't allowed to babysit Rock's biological children, only the children that came from the others. Mm-hmm. So he was babysitting Samuel, and Samuel started to cry, and he would not stop. So Guy punched Samuel in the face because he wouldn't stop crying. But Rock saw this as an opportunity. And remember back when I was talking about him reading all the medical textbooks. Mm-mm. So he's claiming that he can do procedures and help people. Okay. He takes this poor child and says that he can help him after a guy punches him in the face. He plays doctor in the situation. He circumcised the little boy with a razor blade and then made him drink pure ethanol. And of course, poor Samuel died that night. Rock blamed Guy for the entire thing because, Guy was the one that punched him in the face to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then Rock is claiming he took this child and, tried to help him. Mm-hmm. So he's blaming Guy for the whole thing. So for punishment, he convinced his followers to like give him a little trial or whatever. But of course it didn't work because all the followers are going to go with Rock anyway. Mm-hmm. So they found Guy guilty of doing this to this little boy. So for his punishment, he made Guy lay on a table. Oh, no. And he cut his testicles off and put them in a Kleenex. Guy was supposedly suffering from headaches, and Rock told him that this procedure would help with his headaches. So, I mean, it's not over. Guy lived, thankfully, and he escaped.
Oh.
He left.
Get out of there, guy.
And he told police about Samuel's death. Well, they arrested Rock. On September 29th, 1982, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail. 2 years for killing a child. Only 2 years.
That's
just
ridiculous.
I can't.
No.
I mean, that's the worst thing.
Eye for an eye. Eye for an eye.
I mean, that's awful.
Get him out of here.
It's crazy that these things go on as long as they do. And I don't know how many cases that I have read or heard about. And it's like they seem to evade police forever. It's like, I don't know what's going on or if they just don't want to deal with it or whatever.
Yeah.
But like some of these cases, I'm like, shame on authorities, you know, for not doing something when they should have before it got worse. You know, I mean, it just amazes me. 2 years, that's it. But all the followers stayed and waited for him.
You had your opportunity to get out.
No, they all waited on him. They all waited on him. He manipulated everybody to stay. Solange, at this point, she was going to leave.
Good.
But he manipulated her to stay. And then Giselle offered Solange to be his primary wife. I mean, truth be known, Giselle was probably like, I don't want to be his primary wife anymore. You know, like, but so she says, okay, Solange, you can be his primary wife. So Rock got out of jail on February 1984, or in February 1984. And they all went back into the wilderness. They all stayed with him. So at this point, Rock, again, something's happened. Something's brought attention to this. So I need to get everybody out of here again. I need to move. So they move away to a spot farther away from anybody. And he found a spot near an English-speaking town. Now, where he grew up was in Quebec. So they all spoke French.
Yeah.
Well, Rock taught himself to speak English with all the books he was reading and everything, you know, so he felt superior because he could speak both languages. Most of his followers spoke French, so moving them to this English-speaking town, like, isolated them even further because they didn't know English, so they were not able to communicate with pretty much anyone. But, I mean, honestly, they couldn't communicate with anybody anyway unless he was around, like he controlled everything. So that further isolated them. Supplies here were scarce, and the food was scarce. But Rock made all his followers go into these towns and shoplift.
Because he had no money.
They had no money.
Yeah.
So they were going and shoplifting. Well, of course they get caught shoplifting. So they got all these. He basically manipulated some people in town to sell him bakery equipment that he never ended up paying for. So he basically stole bakery equipment from people. And they opened up a bakery called the Anthill Kids.
I ain't eating that shit. I don't care how good it smells. I ain't eating that shit.
So they opened up this bakery. And like I said, they called it the Anthill Kids Bakery. So at this point, you know, Rock's got everybody moved. You know, things are starting to go well with the bakery. They're doing their thing. So, of course, he's out of jail. He started drinking again because, you know, why not, right? I guess. And the things got worse. It just escalated into it's bad. So at this point, he starts making all his followers have group sex.
Oh, orgy.
And Yeah, basically.
If I could say that.
Even the children, he made sometimes participate and watch.
Oh.
He began to beat his followers with hammers. He whipped them. He even urinated on them as punishments. He had convinced these people that he had talked to God and that God had made him a prophet, and if they left him, that they would be struck down. So, of course, they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
They're all getting abused. They're all afraid. Gabrielle got pregnant, had a son, and to save him from Rock's abuse, she left the newborn child in the cold Canada winter outside all night.
So she pretty much tried to kill him.
And he froze to death. So you know that if a woman is going to make the decision to put her newborn child out in the snow or cold overnight so they don't have to suffer the abuse of this person, that it's bad. I mean, that makes me, that my skin right now is crawling. Like I have cold chills. Like that is, I mean, as a mom, I can't. That's just awful. So, at this point, all this, mistreatment is going on of the adults and the children. Well, the police were starting to get suspicious of Rock.
Oh, and now they do after all the stuff.
Right. I mean, they've looked into him a couple of times, but never done anything. So they started to get suspicious of all the mistreatment of the kids. They actually ruled that baby's death as SIDS. I don't know how. I mean, nobody told anybody that she had left him outside all night. So I don't know if back then they didn't have like the technology we have today. Because I mean, the coroner's going to know whether it's SIDS or froze to death. Yeah. I mean, I would think. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a coroner. But like you would think that they would see the difference, But I don't know. They ruled it as SIDS. So basically, the police couldn't do anything because there's nothing that, points to him. But there were some social workers that were determined to figure out what was going on. So they began to watch them and visit the cult and talk to the children. And they said the children were very listless and like disconnected, that you could totally tell that they were being abused. So there wasn't, I mean, I don't know how that works as far as like all the laws and things that go along with social workers and, with kids and all that. But they basically, even though they're visiting and seeing these kids and it's obvious they're getting child abuse or getting abused, that, I mean, they really couldn't do anything yet. Like it was like they didn't have anything to where they could get these kids out of there.
Yeah.
But finally, in October of 1985, Maurice, the one that is there with her husband, that has not been a part of Rock at all, she left. She finally escaped and left. She took her kids with her. And of course, her husband stays because he is up Rock's butt.
Bye.
I mean, so she left. She went to the police. She told them all about the abuse of the kids, both SA and physically. In December of 1985, the social workers took all the underage children from the cult. Took them all. So they were all placed with foster families, and they were able to get help and counseling because they all had issues.
They're scarred.
I mean, you know. So they actually had a trial about this whole thing. And of course, Rock tried to manipulate the whole situation. Luckily, the judge did not side with Rock or anything he was saying. And he ruled that the kids be permanently taken away. So, thank goodness.
Thank you.
At this point, the kids are out of there.
Yes.
But with the kids gone, Rock became more violent with the adults that were still with him. He burned them with a welding torch. He punched one of his wives in the stomach, causing her to miscarry. He pulled their teeth out.
Oh.
One of the followers had complained of a sore tooth. And instead of, I mean, I'm not saying that pulling this tooth was a good idea, but instead of pulling the one tooth, he decided he was going to pull like 8 of them. So he pulled 8 teeth out of this poor woman's mouth. They were so afraid of him and his abuse that they were afraid to leave or say anything to him or against him. It was awful. And this next section that I'm about to go into is probably one of the worst parts. So I'm just going to go ahead and warn you right now. It's bad. So Solange, one evening, was complaining with stomach pain. And so I guess, as you've heard through this whole video, anytime you complain with anything, Rock's going to play doctor.
Yeah.
So he decides he's going to help Solange with this stomach pain. He gave Solange an enema mixed with oil and water. He cut her abdomen open with a knife and pulled out her intestines. Then he made Giselle come back in and put a tube down Solange's throat and blow air into it. And of course, he made one of the other followers come back in and sew her up.
No.
And she died the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So they buried her close to camp. But then that night, Rock had a dream that he was supposed to marry Solange. And evidently, he dreamed that she was pregnant with his child. So the next morning, he had his followers dig her up. He had another follower marry them.
He married a corpse?
He married the deceased Solange in a weird marriage ceremony done by one of the other followers.
This is a corpse's bride, Tim Burton?
I mean,
at
least the corpse bride is like
good.
Nice. I like that movie.
Me too.
Then he took out her organs, some of them, not all. and put them in jars. And he took out a few of her ribs and he wore the ribs around his neck like a necklace.
Oh, my Lord.
This is horrible. He cut the top of Solange's skull off to expose her brain. And this is what he did to say that he was going to bring her back from the dead. He claimed that he could bring her back. He ejaculated into her brain and said that was going to bring her back to life. And of course, it didn't work.
No.
I mean, Solange is not coming back. So they cremated her after this. I have never heard anything like this in my life. Like when I came across this case, I was like, what the hell is happening? Like I had never heard of it. And like I said at the beginning, everybody hears of like, the other cults like Heaven's Gate and Jim Jones and all that. But I have never heard of anybody doing anything like this.
No.
So in my opinion, Rock Terrio the other people have nothing on this guy.
Yeah.
Like he is like
other people are
sick.
Like
sick.
Oh.
So after this, he turned his attention on Gabrielle. He burned her and put a knife through her hand into the table and stuck her to the table with this knife in her hand and left her there for hours. She ran away after this, but was convinced to come back by Jacques. Why she came back, I have no idea. Rock continued abusing her, of course. He took a cleaver and cut off her arm. And then took a hot knife and cauterized the stump of her arm.
No.
You get to the point where you're like, I don't even know what to say. This is just, it's horrible. And I know I've said horrible about 9,000 times in this video, but I can't help it because it is. It's the worst of the worst. And I know that we have like humor and stuff sometimes.
Not enough fun.
Sometimes there's just no humor to be had in certain situations. And I feel like in this case, it's really not humorous. I mean, it's just, like I said, there's no words. So the good news is that Gabrielle actually left this time. On August 11th, 1989, Gabrielle ran away and she went to the hospital. And this would be the beginning of Rock's downfall, finally. After all these years, he started in like the early 70s, and this is 1989 by the time that Gabrielle runs away. So you've got 20 years of all this abuse and stuff happening. So, even though we do this video in like an hour or whatever, this is years and years and years and years of abuse. So I have condensed these notes down into where we're not sitting here for 5 hours, So there is so much abuse that went on in these years of this cult. But Giselle was still too scared of Rock to tell on him and say what really happened. So when she got to the hospital, the nurses and the doctors was like, what in the world happened to you? You know, and of course they bring in the police because this is so not normal, you know. And her story to the police was that she was in a bad car wreck. That's what she said. Luckily, the police did not believe her.
Finally, they're smartphones.
So on August 19th, the police searched the compound. They went up there and they're figuring out what's going on. But because of her leaving, Rock knew something was going to happen, I think, at this point. So when the police got up there to search the compound, everyone was gone. There was no sign of anyone. After the brutal treatment of Solange and Gabrielle, most of his followers finally left. They took off. They were done.
Good.
But Rock went on the run from the police for like 2 months. And there was only like 3 people that stayed with him. Everybody else left. The people that stayed were Jacques, of course, and Chantal and Nicole. They managed to evade the police for like 3 months. Or 2 months, sorry. Rock was finally caught on October 6, 1989. The day he was caught, and Gabrielle knew that he was caught, she opened up. She told everyone about everything that happened. She told the police about her mistreatment, about what happened to Solange, about, you know, everything that happened with the kids, like the whole thing. She just spilled her guts. So on December 18th, Rock was charged with murder. He tried to manipulate the court, of course, because he tries to manipulate everyone. But this time it didn't work.
Good.
Nobody believed a thing he said. They all knew he was full of shit. So on January 18th, 1993, Rock was sentenced to 10 years to life in prison. He went up for parole in 2002, but was denied.
Good.
Luckily.
Hell yeah.
So even though he got 10 years to life, they're pretty much leaving him in there. They're not going to let him come out. At some point when he was in prison, I think it was in like 2009, he was trying to sell some of his artwork online. And the Correctional Services of Canada prevented him from doing this.
Good.
So he was not able to sell anything.
Good. Give that jackass any money.
Right. I mean, he's trying to align himself with some group that sells stuff like that online. It's like a true crime thing where they sell
like Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses or something like that.
Yeah, and like, you know, John Wayne Gacy did paintings and people bought them. And so, you know, so like he's trying to do that too. So he didn't get away with it. They didn't let him. So he's in prison and he died on February 26, 2011. He was 63 years old. He died at the hands of his cellmate.
Yes.
Matthew McDonald. Matthew was in there for murder too. I'm not exactly sure what he did, but I do know he was in there for murder. He stabbed him with a shiv in the neck. And he went to the guard. Matthew went to the guard and he said, quote, "That piece of shit is down on the range. Here's the knife. I sliced him up," end quote. So Matthew took him out.
Yeah.
And he just let the guards know that he took him out. He didn't even care.
Yeah, I didn't even try to do nothing, hide it, nothing.
So, Rock's gone. All his followers were able to move on with their lives. They got help, counseling. Some of them wrote about their experience in the cult. At some point, when they were in the cult, his first two sons with his first wife Francine, they like got her to let them go and live with Rock out there for some time. They were like 10 and 12 when they went out there, but they were out there for some time. I don't know how long or like how they came home or anything like that, but they have written about their experiences being out there with their dad in this cult.
Ooh, that'd be interesting to read.
So, you know, there is a book, and I was going to purchase it and read.
Oh, yeah.
But on Amazon, it's like $230. And I was like, I cannot pay $230 for a book. But this is one of the worst cults that I have ever heard of in my 48 years of living. I mean, like I said, I've watched Manson, I've watched Heaven's Gate, I've watched, you know, Jim Jones, but this is, it just takes it all. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
So this was the story of the Anthill Kids and Rock Terrio, one of the worst cult leaders in the history of cults.
Yeah, I hate it. I wish I never read it. So bad.
I was telling Kaylor, I said, wait till you hear this one. I don't even know what you're going to say. Like, you know.
She would text me and be like, this motherfucker's crazy.
I mean, I was researching this and I was like, this is so bad.
Yeah. Like I think it even makes it worse when children are involved.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's bad anyways, like when, like either like other human beings, but like when it comes to children, animals.
Yeah.
Like, moment right then and there, I honestly, I want to be Matthew.
Yeah.
I want to do Matthew.
Right. I know.
I mean, I'm not that crazy, but yeah. I don't even know.
It's hard to come up with words to say what, I mean, it
was just like, one after another, he thought, like, first it was like his ginormous wee. He think, oh, you know, all these women want me. And then it just went into, well, God came to me and now I'm one of his disciples or whatever. And it's just like, I mean, like, I don't understand, like, how whenever he did that to her brain, I'm not going to bring that up, my child, but it's like, how do people not be like, it didn't fucking work?
I know. It's so strange that all the abuse and all the things that he did, you know, and people didn't realize that he was full of shit. But what is that called when you're with your abuser or with your kidnapper or whatever it is, and you like become, you almost like them. I can't remember what it's called.
When I think of it, I think of it like you're in survival mode.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure most of these people, you know,
you're going to do everything you can to.
But I think it's like Stockholm syndrome or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. You know,
if we're wrong, we'll put it in. If we're wrong,
like look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but yeah, it's bad.
I mean, it was just like, you were like, and then I'm like, and then what? What is it going to end?
Oh, there's a movie on it too, by the way. Yeah, it's the something Messiah. I can't remember. You'll have to Google it, but there's a movie on it. Yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch that.
I know.
I think it's going to be, I mean, like this whole time you were talking, I was like, honestly, I could feel my blood pressure getting high. Like I was getting mad.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's bad. And, you know, I know we do a lot of talking back and forth too, but when you're reading something like that, like there's not a lot you can say, but you know what I mean? Like,
it was just more like I was just like over here, like my mouth hanging open. I was surprised that fly didn't go in my mouth. I was just in there like,
you can't. It was bad. It's bad. And I hope that all the adults and all the children that came out of that are okay today. I really do. I, of course, don't know where they are, and I'm sure they want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But I hope y'all are okay. All okay. I really do, because that's horrible.
That's rough.
Yeah. But, you know, let us know, like in the comments and stuff too, whether you think it was, you know, he was like off from the get go, or, you know, he developed schizophrenia, or something happened to him during surgeries, or, you know, just let us know what you think. You know, I kind of think that he wasn't right to begin with, and maybe develop schizophrenia later on, you know?
Yeah.
Like something triggered. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Yeah. But thank you for watching this video.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be a long one. Thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate it.
Yep.
And we will see you on our next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.